Good morning. Somebody had asked if I had planned to do a video on what became of the People's Convoy. And I said I would. I was going to actually do it last night. I was trying to be respectful of faith and wait until after Shabbat. So I was going to do it last night, and Shabbat ended at, I think it was 8:56 p.m., and I never got a chance to do it. So here we are. I didn't turn the lights up or anything like that. Just kind of wanted to kick back and have a little bit of a conversation with you. So, for those that have been around this channel, you know that quite a while back, I started seeing issues with the People's Convoy. And I have watched more movements than you can imagine. I've watched many movements that never really grew any feet, never really had a chance to grow any feet before they got snuffed out. I've watched that countless times. And it's always the same scenario. Always the same scenario. And I even tried to reach out to Brian Brazzi. I tried to reach out to this Chris Young, which I think is probably one of the bad actors in this. And I didn't, of course, Brian, I'm sure, was getting just pummeled with, emails and messages and all of that stuff, so I don't think nothing of that. But it was interesting, the disconnect that Chris Young had with everything that I posed. Everything that I posed. Because they were doing everything the exact opposite of what you would do if you actually wanted to secure the situation and if you wanted to succeed with the mission. They were doing the exact opposites. Like, for instance, when they announced at one of the meetings that they requested that people no longer fly any other kind of flag other than an American flag or a state flag. And there are many people there that were on the ground that will tell you that about half of the people left that night. That very night. That announcement was intended to do that. And I called it out then. I stand behind what I said. I also want to point out something else. It was very important for them to get control over these states groups on Facebook. They wanted complete control over all the states groups on Facebook. Because one important part of their mission is to be able to disconnect all of you at a moment's notice. And that they did they not? More than once. None of this is by accident. None of it. And I warned about this early on because I saw the change. So here's the thing. You have to keep your eye on the ball. You always have to keep your eye on the ball. Well, what's the ball in this situation? Well, in this particular situation, the ball was a person. And it was important to keep your eye on that person no matter what. You have to know what the ball is. That's critically important. Because I think a lot of people understand that they have to keep their eye on the ball, but I think they misidentify the ball. But then it gets a little bit deeper yet. Once you have identified the correct ball, you're watching it. You got to know the game that they're playing with it. Because it doesn't matter if you know what ball to keep your eye on. If you can't get ahead of their moves, they're going to win every time. So you have to pick the right ball. And you have to know the game that they're playing with it. Once you can identify those things, you can watch as certain things are put into place and certain actions are being taken. I've done this countless times, and this is just one more time. The ball was Brian Brazzi. He was the ball. Okay? Brian's a good man. I can tell you that. I can tell you without a doubt that is one stand-up guy. Without a doubt. I think Mike. I think Landis. He's another stand-up guy. He is. But there is a caveat. I think Mike's a little weak. Now, I don't mean that as an insult at all. It's just some people are. And I think he was less likely to raise a stink. And they knew that. And I think that's why they wanted Brian out as quick as they can. They wanted to lock that in as far as pushing Brian out as quickly as they can, because Brian does have the balls to speak. And so they had to get rid of him. But this, make no mistake, this was an infiltration. And I can tell you that I had been able to pick out 2 of the infiltrators, 2 agents. I can tell you that one left in the RV. And I can tell you that the other one is currently off with this other new and improved people's convoy, whatever they're going to call it. I don't know what they're going to call it. But I will tell you this. This new and improved people's convoy, whatever name they choose to slap on it, is a honeypot. I will tell you that, and I will give you a clear, distinct warning that it is a honeypot, and it would probably be in the best interest to steer clear. My recommendation, if you want to stay involved in a movement like this, is several of the states, I can't say whether or not it's all 50 or not, I have no idea. I know Illinois here has one, but go to Facebook and put in the People's Movement. The People's Movement. And then your state. And see what you come up with. Brian has also been very pleased with the advancement, if you will, of the People's Movement. And in fact, apparently, their Pennsylvania crew has really got it going on. So I would, if you want to be involved in something like that, look for the People's Movement. As far as the People's Convoy, my advice, just write it off. Just write it off. It's just another one of those movements that was allowed to be infiltrated. And, well, I mean, that's all there is to it. Nobody can do anything about it. Unfortunately, it is what it is. It is what it is. I was screaming early on because there was absolutely zero transparency. When it started out, when Brian and Mike started out, that's one of the very first things that they promised was transparency. So much so that Brian wouldn't even have a meeting with an elected official unless it was live streamed. That is how important it was to Brian that there was complete transparency. Brian was the only one that took action on that proved, that showed, that went beyond words and saying it. He proved that he wanted complete transparency. Nobody else did. And I'm talking about leadership. Nobody else did. Nobody. And in fact, they got pissed off. Anytime anybody would pose a question, they got angry. Well, what does that tell somebody if anger is response when you get asked something? Even minor things. There were so many things. And I had personally taken a number of things to Chris Young. Things were going on in the Telegram. I knew it was being taken over and hijacked, and I was trying to, hey, Chris, you guys, you really need to get this damn link off your website because you're sending people somewhere that is working against you. Nothing. So, I mean, there was a number of things. I gave recommendations, like they need to secure communications by putting a forum on their own website so that people can communicate with each other. That way you're not relying on, Facebook or anything like that. You're not bound by their rules. They can't just up and remove your forum. Nope. It was mind-boggling how idiotic some of the moves were that were being made. And I'm talking post Brian Brazzi. Because that's when he left, when he initially left to go be able to pay some bills. That is, I mean, it literally started at that moment. Those vultures were waiting there. And the moment Brian stepped away, poof. I don't know who all the agents are. One thing that you learn when you watch and follow this type of stuff and when you cover this type of stuff is typically there's more agents than there are people. So I can't begin to tell you who they all are. But I've identified a couple. And I'm not going to come right out and say. I gave the only hint I'll give. One of them left in the RV. And the other one is with the new and improved People's Convoy, whatever name they're taking upon themselves. My advice, steer clear. And again, if you want to be involved in something like that, look up the People's Movement on Facebook. Other than that, that's about all I got for you. My apologies on their behalf if you donated money and expected something as a result of it. I'm sorry. It's I'm not going to sit here and say that all the money was squandered and somebody's walking away with millions, or I'm not going to go there. Why? Because I'm just basing it on stuff I pull out of my butt. I don't have any figures on how much money they had coming in. I don't have the figures on how much fuel they paid out. I guarantee you that a fortune was spent on fuel. That I can tell you. But as to any actual figures, numbers, I wouldn't even know where to begin. So, it is what it is. Supposedly, when you close up a 501c3, there's audits done, and things are gone over with a fine-tooth comb. We'll see. We'll see. Sure didn't stop BLM from buying up a bunch of houses and spending all kinds of money to do all kinds of stuff, did it? Just saying. Anyway, like I say, that's about all I got for you on it. It's just mind-blowing. I tried warning the guys, and there are people that I had messaged privately. Like WYSIWYG, I'd messaged him privately to try to give him a heads up. All these people act like I've got 5 eyes on my head or something. Nobody wants to listen to the guy that's got the experience. Everybody wants to listen to the guy that's cool. I can't fix stupid. Shalom.